Welcome to the Choir Conductor podcast. Each episode features a conversation with people in the choir or music education profession. I am your host, Zach Thompson. Let's start the show. My guest today is, well, me. My name is Zach Thompson, and I am the host of the Choir Conductor podcast. I started this podcast about a year ago with the goal of talking to other choir directors, educators, and composers to learn more from them. I'm going to change up the normal format that I've used with my guests throughout the past year and sort of interview myself to give you my perspective and my experience with music and teaching. So I usually start by asking my guests to tell me about their musical upbringing. So we're going to start with my musical upbringing, and it might be a little bit different than most other musicians and educators. I didn't really start to get into quote-unquote classical music or even choir music until about my junior year of high school. I actually didn't take choir until my senior year of high school. When I was in middle school or in elementary school, I played the trumpet from about 5th grade until 8th grade. So that kind of established a little bit for me, just the basics of how to read music, but then I stopped and I didn't really pick up the trumpet until class brass in college. But in middle school, I wanted to, or I felt like I was a punk rock kid. So a couple of my friends and myself, they had a band, and I joined their band, and they needed a bass player. So I said, hey, I'll go get a bass. And then, so we played music, kind of the punk rock style, all throughout high school, really. But then, really, what happened was, in 7th or 8th grade, there was the high school musicals, and they needed some of the middle schoolers to play the Munchkins from the musical The Wizard of Oz. And one of my favorite teachers is my 8th grade civics teacher, Mrs. Schaefer. She was the producer of that, and she kind of recruited a bunch of us in the middle school that were in the same class as her son. And so we all kind of jumped into the musical things at a very young age, and I ended up playing the mayor of Munchkinland, believe it or not. And so that kind of got me hooked with musicals, and I kept up with the musicals all throughout high school, in my 9th grade and sophomore year. But then I wanted to get a better part in the musical. So I then talked to the musical director and the choir director of my high school, which is North Star High School, which is in Boswell, Pennsylvania, a small town about 2 hours south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Anyway, I asked Mr. Gordy if he could give me some voice lessons. I knew next to nothing about proper singing, but I knew I wanted a better part in the musical. He graciously agreed to teach me, and miraculously, through some lessons with him, a few lessons, I got some of the basics down, and then was able to do a much better on my audition, and I happened to get the lead in the musical Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And through the process of being the lead in a musical and working hard and learning more about the voice, I decided that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach other people music and specifically choir. So from then on, I took lessons regularly with Mr. Gordy, joined my high school's choir my senior year, and then auditioned to be a music education student in voice. I ended up going to Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, where I met lots of great instructors, but one of the most influential for me was Dr. Stephen Barr, which I've had both Blake Gordy and Stephen Barr on this podcast, and they've been very influential throughout my life. Then I found out somehow through, I think it was a magazine, that you could actually get your master's degree in choral conducting. Somehow no one ever told me. I didn't even think it was possible that you could end up doing that. So my junior year, again, it seems to be the theme, junior year of college, I decided that I want to go get my master's degree in choral conducting. So I started the search process, and somehow I got the email of Dr. Corey Foster from Austin Peay State University, which is in Clarksville, Tennessee, about an hour or 45 minutes north of Nashville, Tennessee. I emailed him, asked him about his program. He was very gracious with his time. He sent me an email. He even talked on the phone. His graduate students talked to me through email, and I ended up flying down for an audition, and it was the best fit. And the reason why I think it was the best fit is because it's a smaller program, and they offered the most amount of podium time, which is really one of the major decisions that I needed. I wanted to go to somewhere where I would actually conduct in rehearsals, not just in the office or just sectionals. I wanted to actually do it. And so Austin Peay was the university that I chose to get my master's degree, and really that helped me solidify that I, in fact, do want to be a choral conductor or a choir conductor, because throughout the undergrad, it's such a broad education or experience, and they need so many credits because you never know what you're going to end up teaching. But really, what solidified my love of choral music was going to Austin Peay State University. I then ended up going to teach in Charlotte, North Carolina for almost 2 years. And then I moved down here to Sebring High School in Sebring, Florida, which is where I'm still currently teaching. And I'm very happy where I am right now. That kind of leads me into what I'm currently doing for a living. I teach high school choir and one section of International Baccalaureate Music. I'm also the music director for St. Agnes Episcopal Church here in Sebring, Florida. My choir at the high school, I have 5 sections, and combining all the students makes up about 180 different students. I have 5 different choirs that meet regularly, but then another 3 that meet either for special occasions or after school. So I have in total about 7 or 8 choirs. And I'm very fortunate to work with amazing musicians and teachers at my school that are very supportive of what we do. And I know that's not the case everywhere. So I'm very lucky. The schedule is block schedule. So I have 4 classes a day, each about an hour and a half. And I think that is the perfect amount of time for a rehearsal. So we have A days and then B days. So Monday and Wednesday are A, Tuesday, Thursday are B days, and then Fridays are C. So you get all 8 periods, or really 7 periods, but they're now half the time instead of an hour and a half. The hour and a half classes are great. I think they're a perfect amount of time to get most of what you want done, and it's great to set them up for other rehearsals that are not with a high school, that they'll get used to that kind of time frame afterwards. Some of the joys and challenges of my position is that I teach in a rural area. So some of the challenges with that is it's just a small town, and some of the resources could be lacking. But the joys is that it's a very supportive program, as I said before, and we get to travel and do lots of amazing opportunities that most choirs our size do not get to do. We got to travel to New York City and sing at Carnegie Hall. They do that every other year, and almost every year they get to sing at Disney for the Epcot Candlelight Processional. So, and I'm lucky enough to have gotten our varsity choir, which is the top choir, accepted for the Florida Music Education Association conference to sing for the President's concert, which is the opening night of the Music Educators Conference in January, which would be I'm very much looking forward to that. It's going to be a very exciting concert and experience for not only myself, but also for my students and their parents. The moment I decided to become a choir teacher, like I mentioned earlier, was during my junior year as the music for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I remember sitting on the steps right before one of the shows, and I said, I think I want to do this as a career. And I told that to Mr. Gordy, and he's like, okay, I think you're hard worker, and I think you can do it. And so I had to work extremely hard to catch up because I was so behind. And there are several people that, like I already mentioned, Mr. Gordy, Dr. Barr, and my piano teacher, Mr. Richard Kinjera. And he has taught me so much, not only about the piano, but music and being an educator as well. So those three early on, and then Dr. Foster in my graduate school are the very influential to me for my music education and my life in general. And then usually ask guests if they have a favorite musical experience, either as a performer or an audience member. The one that I can think of as my favorite for the audience member was my first time going to National ACDA Conference in Dallas, Texas. I've never went to an ACDA conference before, but I went to this one, and I was blown away by the amazing talent from all of the choirs and just the vast number of choir conductors that were all in the same place at the same time. It was amazing. And I remember one of my first concerts there, I saw the Philippine Magical Singers, and they sang this song called Apocalyptic Alleluia. It was this unpublished, about 10-minute song, and it was unbelievably beautiful and powerful. Everyone around me, about 5 or 6 minutes in, you think it can't get any better than this, and then it does. And almost everyone around me I saw, they just couldn't handle it anymore. Everyone was crying because it was so beautiful, including myself. I think that's one of my favorite ones as an audience member. Probably as a performer would be the first time that I sang at Carnegie Hall. It's just such an iconic place. And again, that was an overwhelming experience for myself getting to travel there and sing with Slippery Rock and a bunch of other choirs from around the country to premiere a orchestral choral work by James Eakin, which I believe is called Flowers Over the Graves of War. And that was probably one of my most memorable musical experiences as a performer. What advice would I give my younger self? Start playing the piano earlier. I had to really catch up and practice a lot and work really hard to get to where I am now, but I'm still nowhere near where I should be for as far as playing the piano, and my students will tell you that in a heartbeat. I'm getting better because just the sheer amount of times that I've been doing it, but I wish I would have started playing the piano at a younger age. That would be one of my main advices to myself. I would also tell myself to start. This has nothing to do with music, but to start investing early, much earlier than you should, and you would be amazed at the wonderful aspects of compounding interest. But that's a little side note. Yeah, the major thing is start learning piano earlier. That would save me lots of time and heartache now. My favorite app would probably be the podcast app from iTunes, because I love to constantly learn new things and listen to a bunch of podcasts while I'm doing stuff either around the house or traveling or working out, things like that. Definitely the podcast app is one of my favorites. And then I usually ask people what their favorite book is. My favorite non-musical book would have to be Game of Thrones. They're just such amazing books. They're all very long, but they are well worth it. And I would say for those of you that are just watching the series, you should definitely also read the books. They're amazing and slightly different from the series. I also then will talk about my musical books, and I actually did a blog post about this, and I'll put that on the website. So if you go to zackthompsonmusic.weebly.com/015 for episode 15, I'll put a link to my blog post about my top 5 books for choir conductors. The top 5 I put are Conducting Technique, The Robert Shaw Reader, Chorus Confidential, The 4-Hour Workweek, and Evoking Sound. Probably what I come back to the most would probably be Evoking Sounds, just from kind of a more new age approach and a more holistic view about the body and what how the body is supposed to work, how versus how it does. And there's a DVD that's included that shows you some really great conducting technique, and then it kind of shows you what a skeleton looks like. So it's a lot of body mapping aspects to it that are great to come back to as well. So that's Evoking Sound, James Jordan. But like I said again, I'll put a link on the website to all of those books in my blog post. And if you purchase any of those books on Amazon from the links that are provided, I will get a small percentage of your purchase, but you will not have to pay any more. It's Amazon affiliate marketing program, and if you buy one of those books through my link, you will be supporting the podcast, and I will greatly appreciate that as well. There's also other ways to support this podcast. You can go to my website, zachthompsonmusic.weebly.com, and you can click on the support button on top of the web page there, and there's a bunch of different ways that you can support. Some are just by simply using the links, or by buying and subscribing to different things, or there's also a donate button, or if you just want to help me in a non-monetary way, you can watch these on YouTube, and you can like, comment, or share those, or you can leave a review on iTunes and that would help to bring the show to more people, and I'll greatly appreciate that. Other than music, do I have hobbies? Yes, I like to ride my bike. I'm fortunate enough to live close enough to work that I ride my bike most days to school and back. So that's a great little way to get some exercise, be out in fresh air, and it saves some gas money. So riding my bike. I also enjoy reading when I have the time, but I get less and less time as the school year goes on. But one of my hobbies that some people might know, or some people might not, is that I like to homebrew beer and wine. It's just another kind of process that you can get into. You can start learning a lot about, and it's really, there's no end to the amount of knowledge and techniques that you can learn to make better and better beer and better products. And it's nice to just do something other than music sometimes. And for those of you that are wondering, is that legal? Yes, homebrewing is legal in all 50 states. And if you're interested, you should check out the American Homebrewers Association. That's a great place to start about learning about the wonderful art of homebrewing. So those would be my hobbies. And then the programming I have for this upcoming season for my choir. This is a very ambitious year that I have set up for. This is my second full year here at Sebring High School. And for the varsity choir, they have a lot on their plate. Not only are they going to be singing for the President's Concert of FMEA, but they also, in the spring, are going to be performing Vivaldi's Gloria with a small string orchestra, along with Blake Gordy's. Hopefully, Blake Gordy's choir from Tennessee will be coming down to join us for that concert. Excuse me. And I wanted to start to do a major work every other year that we, on the off year that they don't go to Carnegie Hall. I wanted them to start to do a major work because I feel that it's one of the most rewarding experiences as a choral singer to get multiple movements with the orchestra and the chorus, and it's just an amazing experience. So we're going to be starting with Vivaldi Gloria, and we're using all public domain scores, so it's free, and so it's a great entry source to doing major work. So that's the program for the spring. Some of the things for the President's Concert I have planned is going to do one of Dr. Barr's pieces. It is kind of an homage to Ralph Vaughan Williams' Silent Noon. We're also going to do a movement from Vivaldi's Gloria to start, most likely Gloria, the beginning of it, and then I'll move into William Billings, just because I think he's such a great kind of eccentric choral composer from early America. And one of the other things is we're going to be doing a piece from Estonia. Estonia is going to be celebrating their 100th year anniversary of becoming a country. So in 2018, so we're going to be doing a piece called Musica. So you can guess the title, Music. And so that would be some of the things that we'll be doing for that President's concert. Not all of it is set in stone yet, so I'm still waiting and trying to figure out the next step. I am looking for a short, fast choral piece with piano, so if you have any suggestions, you can contact me on the website. If you are interested in being a guest on this podcast, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me on my website, or you can leave a comment or message me on any of the social medias that I'm on there. My Twitter is on my website, and you can get in contact from me there as well. I thank you so much for all of you that have been listening and contributing and have been a guest throughout this past year. I hope to continue to bring you more episodes this coming year. I'm hoping to do at least once a month. So again, I thank you very much for listening to the Choir Conductor podcast. Thank you for listening to the Choir Conductor podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and leave a review. Go to zackthompsonmusic.weebly.com for show notes, an archive of podcast episodes, and free compositions. Have a great week.